There's no such thing as an ideal Muslim family. As a matter of fact, there's no such thing as an ideal family. You can even take out the word Muslim. And also, there's no such thing as a normal family. So if some of you are wondering, why can't we have a normal family? Right? Let's accept the fact that there's no such thing. Every one of us has some kind of adventure in our family. Some kind of problem. Some kind of crazy situation. And we all think that it's, oh, my family, oh man, we're so weird. We have these weird situations in our family. You're not weird. You're actually pretty normal, because there's a whole bunch of other people that have the same exact situation as you, or even worse, and are dealing with it. Our deen does not want us to be an ideal family. It wants us to deal with our family in an ideal way. It teaches us how to manage a situation. This dunya is a world of trials, and those trials are going to be personal. Those trials are going to be financial. Those trials are also going to have to do a lot with our families. We're going to have family trials. And that's a part of life. You have to accept that. You have to accept that there's going to be trouble in family. And this deen is beautiful because it accepts that reality and it teaches us how to deal with it. Somebody comes to me, I get a lot of emails in subjects that I'm not qualified for. So I get, people listen to my talks online and watch a YouTube video or something, and then they share their personal life story by email with me. A lot. I know most of it has to do with some kind of family situation. Most of it. Somebody's having a real problem with their wife. Somebody's having a real problem with their husband. Somebody seriously hates their brother or their sister. They can't stand them. How do I deal with this hate? Somebody says, my parents just don't listen to me. They don't care about me. I can't talk to them about anything. They're always angry. Somebody says, my uncle, he's so arrogant. I don't know what to do about that. He's just got such an ego problem. I don't know how to deal with it. How am I supposed to keep family relations with someone who's so arrogant, so, so condescending all the time? He talks down to me all the time. There are people that, talk about how they've lost a family member, or there's a family member that's sick. And so, when a family member is sick, the entire family has to compensate for that and deal with that situation. It's not easy sometimes, especially people that are in terminally ill kinds of situations. And you have to, you're taking care of the father, everybody's taking turns taking care of the father or the mother. Or things. Some of you parents have a child who's got a very, difficult disorder or disease. And you have to turn your whole life upside down to deal with that child's situation. Sometimes, a husband or a wife become very, very sick, and it can really put a lot of pressure on the rest of the family. Then, of course, I haven't even talked about the big one, in-laws. Right? So, all of us have situations. All of us do. There's none of us that don't. None of us can safely say that I have a life in which no member of my family, close or distant, causes me zero stress. I get no stress from family. That just isn't true. And now, how do I know that our deen teaches us to deal with this kind of scenario? I told you somebody emails me and says, I'm having trouble with my wife. I don't know if I can trust her. We don't communicate very clearly. I thought she was someone, but she's someone else. I don't really know. Sometimes I don't feel like I don't know who she is. I'm like, hey, that sounds familiar. Lut alayhi salam. And somebody else comes and tells me, my kids, they give me such grief. I've done everything I can to raise them, but they give me such a hard time. I'm like, hey, Nuh alayhi salam. That sounds familiar. Somebody else comes and tells me, my husband, he's abusive, he's scary, I'm afraid to talk to him, I don't know what to do, I'm stuck in this situation. I'm like, oh, Asiya radiallahu anha. Okay. And my uncle's a crazy guy. He's really arrogant. He gives me such a hard time. Oh, Abu Lahab. Oh, okay. You give me a situation, you give me a family situation, and chances are, somebody says, I hate my siblings. Like, I can't stand them. They're older than me, they always beat me up. I was like, well, Binyamin. His brother, oppress him. They even blame him when he gets arrested, in Egypt. SubhanAllah. Every one of these situations, there's something in the Quran. There's something in the Sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ. Why are these situations there? Because even the best of people had family situations. The best of them. And it's not their fault. I would argue probably as far as parents are concerned, for example, that Yaqub alayhi salam is, in my estimation, probably the best parent or the example of parenting mentioned in the Quran. When Allah talks about parenting, He brings up Yaqub alayhi salam a lot. Okay? And Yaqub alayhi salam, as you know, his other name is Israel. And he has how many sons? Anyone know? He has 12 sons. 10 of whom give him hard time for most of his life. A very hard time. And you cannot argue that Yaqub alayhi salam, being a prophet that he is alayhi salam, that he was not a good parent. He was an awesome parent. He did his job as a parent, but kids didn't turn out the way he expected. That's just reality. You can do your part, but you can only do so much. Then people, a lot of times people have a certain kind of email, or a certain kind of question. And that's really what I want to talk to you guys about, is how do we think about these problems? My discussion with you today is really just that. It's a discussion. It's not a halaqah of ilm. I'm not going to teach you something about Islamic knowledge that you didn't already know. But I want to have a conversation with you, and actually I want to dedicate most of our time together with you asking the questions and you bringing up concerns, things like that, inshallah ta'ala. But people ask, how do you talk to someone in your family who's got this, and this? How do you talk to your parents who don't listen to you? Or how do you change them? Right? So most people that have a problem, they think the solution is if somehow we can change the person who's giving us a hard time. We can change the person who's the cause of the problem. How do we change them? That is the problem, isn't it? Like Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam cannot change his uncle. He can't change him. He cannot change, Nuh alayhi salam can't change his wife. He can't. She is who she is. And the only one who can change the hearts is Allah, Ya muqallib al-qulub. Right? The one who can change the hearts. We can't change people's hearts. We cannot alter them. So we have to understand, first and foremost, that if you are expecting other people to change, and until other people change, your situation will not get any better, then you're looking at the problem the wrong way. Because if you keep waiting for other people to change, that may never happen. That might never happen. The only thing you can do, and I can do, is deal with the situation in a healthy way. And I'm not saying sabr is the only answer. There may be other things you can do. There may be other remedies to the problem. There may be other ways of tackling and dealing with the situation. But one thing's for sure. The primary responsibility we have, like if you're unhappy with your wife, for example, and inshallah ta'ala you're not, but if you're unhappy with your wife, every other conversation runs into a fight. They just end up arguing with her. Right? And she's unhappy with you, you're unhappy with her. And you feel like every time you bring up a concern, she just doesn't care. And you tell her something's important and she says, yeah, whatever, and she doesn't care. And that's what you feel like. And she feels like you never listen to her, and there's this kind of problem. And then you come to the shaykh and say, Shaykh, my wife, I don't know, she's got these issues, what should I do? And the shaykh's, maybe you didn't even ask the shaykh, maybe you asked Google. What should I do? And you find out like a hadith about the wife, ayat about the wife, and you pull out all the rights of the husband, all the hadith, and you put them on the fridge. فَالصَّالِحَاتُ قَانِتَاتٌ. Righteous women are the ones that are subservient and obedient, and they're willing to obey, and they're, you put it on the fridge for her. Maybe if she reads Quran and realizes what she's supposed to be like, you make a big poster out of الرِّجَالُ قَوَّامُونَ عَلَى النِّسَاءِ. Men are maintainers and, authorities over women. You make a gigantic poster and you put it in the bedroom. As he walks in, she sees الرِّجَالُ قَوَّامُونَ عَلَى النِّسَاءِ. Chances are that's not going to work very well. Chances are, even if you quote the dalil on her face, you're like, hey, you ain't no Sahabi yourself, Other thing we have to note is the best generation, the Sahaba radiallahu anhu ajma'in, they were no exception either. They had trouble too. They had trouble in their families. And it wasn't just trouble between Muslim Sahaba and non-Muslim, like family members. That's obvious. There's going to be some friction there. But even among Muslims. I mean, the Quran even talks about a divorce happening between, Zayd. Zayd radiallahu ta'ala, it happened, didn't it? They're both Sahaba. They're both good people. They're not bad people. Sometimes family can't get along. It happens. These are real life situations. If you're not willing to accept that there's something wrong with you, even if it's 1%, maybe 99% their fault, 1% your fault. But if you can't even admit to that 1%, you can't admit to that, and you're not willing to change yourself in any way, then you are setting yourself up for a lifetime of misery. The solution to our family problems is not to leave our families, is not to cut the relations, is not to just find out, maybe if I had a different family, things would have been better. Maybe if there weren't, maybe if I got married to somebody else, things wouldn't be like this. So Shaitan gives you that thought. He gives you that thought. Maybe, I don't know, this family's kind of messed up. This one didn't turn out that well. Let me try a different one. It's not food at a restaurant. It's not, I don't like this one, let me try another one. Actually, chances are, if you're bad at running one family, I'm talking to the men now, if you're bad at running one family, chances are you're going to be worse at running the next one. You're going to be worse. A reality where people, the family's trying to hold on to Islam, and they're trying to, make sure the children learn the prayer, and they learn to observe the restrictions of the haram, and they commit themselves to the halal. But one of the boys is becoming rebellious. One of the girls is becoming rebellious. And they stop praying. And you find weird stuff on their iPhone. And they're just headphones in the ear all the time. The father's going to Qiyam al-Layl every night. He's at every salat at the masjid. And the kid at home is a completely different character. The girl goes out and you don't even know where she goes, and then she comes back at 10, 11 o'clock at night. And there's this friction in the house, because it's like these kids have practically left Islam. They've practically left. It is so traumatic, it's so difficult to deal with that reality that my children they don't care about Islam anymore. You just decide you don't want to deal with it. The elders decide they don't want to deal with it. I'll just spend most of my time in the masjid. I'll just spend my time making dua, making dhikr, making salawat. That's all I can do. I'm not going to deal with my family. These kids, let them just do what they do. And every time, if you do talk to them, you yell and scream, the kids go, I don't have to take this, I'm out. They slam the door and they walk out. I don't have to take it anymore, And so you don't deal with it, and they say they can't talk to you, and eventually you end up losing those children. They end up running away from home. They end up, in all kinds of illicit relationships. They move out of the house. You lose touch with them. You lose family this way. The prophets didn't have ideal families. They had problems in their families. The first principle, in my opinion, wallahu a'lam, of a healthy family is you never give up on family. I don't care if your kid's doing drugs. I don't care if your father's all kinds of messed up. You don't give up on your family. You stay in touch.